One by one, hidden up my sleeve. Hey, don't let it go to waste. That's the best, the best, the best of you. It's so head, she said, do, 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 do.
Kurt Cobain's departure in 1994 left a deep wound for the remaining Nirvana members, especially Krist, Novoselic and Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl experienced acute depression when he heard the tragic news of the death of the frontman in Nirvana's body. Dave Grohl was unsure whether he could continue his career as a musician. Even Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic finally had to throw out the plan to release Nirvana live material because they couldn't remember good times and glory with the grunge band. According to Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic, that period was a very emotional time, even to the point of draining energy despite doing nothing. Gradually Dave Grohl got up the courage to end the grief that was in his heart, and Dave Grohl started making music again. Writing songs in solitude, Dave Grohl finally recorded the material for the songs that he prepared. Dave Grohl chose to record the song at Robert Lang's studio in Seattle with Barrett Jones as a producer. The recording is personal. Dave Grohl considers the musical process at that time as his way to process the sadness he feels, and hopes the feelings he puts into the song will be a good farewell for Kurt Cobain. Recording almost all aspects of the song, Dave Grohl began to make copies of the master demo that he made into cassette format. Dave Grohl distributed the tapes to his close friends who also knew and were close to Kurt Cobain or Nirvana. One of the recipients of the cassette was Pearl Jam's vocalist Eddie Vedder, then Eddie, who at that time had an independent radio broadcast, played a song titled Exhausted by Dave Grohl. Interestingly, the song actually reached the ears of a major record label, Capitol Records. Knowing that the song belonged to Dave Grohl, the drummer at Nirvana, the record label persuaded the drummer to release a full album. Then, interested in the offer, Dave Grohl finally accepted and started recording his first album under the name Foo Fighters. The name Foo Fighters itself was taken by Dave Grohl from the term used by the Allied Air Forces when they saw an unknown warplane. Dave Grohl's decision to return to music turned out to be criticized by Nirvana fans. They felt that Dave Grohl should not return to music without Nirvana. But Dave Grohl stated that only music kept him alive, but to return as a drummer seems impossible, because the wounds after Kurt Cobain's death still linger clearly. The recording process, which is nearing completion, in fact still puts another burden on Dave Grohl, because Dave Grohl needs people to make Foo Fighters a band that can actually perform at live events during the promotion period. Finally, Dave Grohl started contacting his old friend Pat Smear, who happened to be an additional guitar player for the previous Nirvana. After hearing the news of the disbandment of Sunny Day Real Estate, Dave Grohl tried to contact Nate Mendel as bass player and William Goldsmith for drumming. After an agreement between the prospective members, Dave Grohl finally succeeded in making Foo Fighters into a band format. Grohl also filled the role of vocalist and guitar player. The debut lineup finally appeared for the first time at an event held for friends and relatives of the band members as a celebration of the release of the first album Foo Fighters in 1995. At that time, Dave Grohl, even though he managed to give the best performance, but he still wasn't sure if he could lead a band. With the belief that Dave Grohl finally led the course of Foo Fighters as the permanent captain, Dave Grohl's steadfastness in music finally brought himself and the Foo Fighters to a wider audience. In 1996, Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters actively participated in music festival events spread almost all over the world, throughout the United States and also the European continent. The growing popularity also gave the Foo Fighters the opportunity to appear on American television through Letterman and Saturday Night Live. At that time, the two television shows had high ratings and succeeded in making the name of the Foo Fighters skyrocket. Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters' names were increasingly recognized thanks to the popularity of the video clip of their fourth single entitled Big Me. Through the video clip, Foo Fighters won the Best Group Video Award at the Video Music Awards in 1996. Foo Fighters' debut album also managed to rank 23 on the Billboard album chart in the same year and sold more than 1 million copies.
One by one hidden up my sleeve. Hey, don't let it go to waste.
The initial formation that seemed to bring good luck did not last long, because the drummer, William Goldsmith, decided to return to his old band, Sunny Day Real Estate. The departure of William forced Dave Grohl to return to fill the drum position for the production of recording the second Foo Fighters album, namely The Color and the Shape, in 1997. Finished with the recording process, Dave Grohl again looked for a replacement drummer for William until it finally fell into the hands of Taylor Hawkins. This formation eventually became Dave Grohl's permanent formation with the Foo Fighters before Pat Smear left at the end of 1997, and in 2005 rejoined as an additional guitarist. Then in 2000 Chris Shiflett joined to fill the vacancy in the guitarist position. To this day Dave Grohl has released 9 albums with the Foo Fighters. Their most recent album entitled Concrete and Gold was released in 2017.